Okay, so we have a double header for you in this edition of All Angles, a closer look at concerns raised by the Integrity Commission in the Market Me report, also the interdiction of Dr. J. Dixon after running for elected office on a PNP ticket. I'm Dion Jackson-Miller. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's start with the Integrity Commission report. Concerns about how the Ministry of Health awarded nearly $80 million in contracts is at the heart of the Integrity Commission report. Anthony Lugg took a look.
The Integrity Commission's report comes nearly 5 years after its probe into alleged conflicts of interest involving the Ministry of Health, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, and the public relations firm Market Me. The Director of Investigation found that 15 contracts valued at $78.6 million were awarded to Market Me during the review period, 14 by the Health Ministry, and 1 by the National Family Planning Board using the direct contracting procurement method. The report concludes that the use of direct contracting breached the Ministry of Finance's guidelines, which limit this method to contracts valued below $1.5 million. The Commission also raised concerns about an unsolicited proposal submitted by Market Me in 2016 for the Jamaica Moves campaign. The report found that the ministry did not conduct due diligence to verify the proposal's merit, nor did it engage in a competitive bidding process. On Tuesday, our news team caught up with Dr. Tufton outside of Parliament.
While it was critical of aspects of the administration of the process directed at the ministry, there is nothing in the report to suggest anything untoward. So from that standpoint, I think it represents vindication. My only regret that it has taken so long, and that along the way a number of persons and entities, including the ministry, would or may have suffered some reputational damage and concern.
The Director of Investigation found no direct evidence that the Health Minister participated in the award of contracts. However, it concluded that his introduction of Market Me and friendship with its co-managing director, Lindsay McDonough, created a perceived conflict of interest. The Integrity Commission has recommended that the ministry strengthen procurement planning, avoid the misuse of direct contracting, and cease awarding contracts based on unsolicited proposals without proper vetting. But for Dr. Tufton,
I will accept it for what it has concluded fundamentally. If there are areas to learn from, then we have to learn from it and move forward. But fundamentally, the work was about the work of the Ministry of Health, and that was done with all sincerity to get the maximum and best impact for programs, and in particular the programs around lifestyle diseases.
The Director of Investigations has also referred the matter to the House Speaker. As to what action the House Speaker will take, it's left to be seen how that will unfold.
I'll work with the Speaker. What is important is that it has found no evidence of pursuing the matter beyond having a discussion with the Speaker. And I will yield to the Speaker's judgment and have a conversation with her.
Okay. So joining us in studio now, we have Opposition Spokesperson on Health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, also with us, Executive Director of the Watchdog Group, Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, Jeanette Calder. Thank you both so much. We appreciate it. And Jeanette, let me start with you. The minister said there was nothing untoward, and he said the report, in fact, represents vindication. There were concerns that were raised by the Director of Investigation, though.
Definitely very serious concerns that I would say just outright, Dion, if I even just quote the report, were violations of the law, and not just law, but also policy and financial regulations, the Integrity Commissions Act. For example, both the Integrity Commissions Act and the Public Procurement Act required, in this case, the minister and Lindsay McDonough to have indicated that there was a friendship. This is just the kind of public disclosure that you make. For the simple reason, Dion, that it signals to those who are dealing with the procurement process that if there's additional scrutiny that is necessary, they can apply it. And that wasn't done. That's a breach of law. There's also the issue of the direct contracting, unsolicited proposals. The Public Procurement Act, Dion, is very clear. If you get an unsolicited proposal, meaning that the minister, or the ministry rather, did not actually invite any kind of private entities to provide a service, but they were approached by a business or a company and said, hey, we think this would do the ministry some good. That is allowed under the law, but there's a very clear process and the steps that are in place, Dion, to protect the public's money and to ensure that if we're only dealing with one entity, we still get value for money in the absence of competition. Those were not followed. There are concerns about what we call contract splintering, where we have several contracts on one given day, same date, same kind of services, and the whole idea and the concerns why the Act asks public procurement officials to look out for this kind of thing as a red flag is that there are thresholds, Dion, that if you're over $1.5 million, it moves from just within the department and other persons have to get involved in authorizing it. So sometimes if there is something that I would say malfeasance or corruption, you keep it under the $1.5 million so that there are limited persons scrutinizing and asking questions. So we're talking about several pieces of legislations that were violated. Just to close off on the preliminary comment, Dion, I did see the minister's press release. I did hear about the ministry's release. The ministry says there was no malfeasance. I had to look up the word. It means no wrongdoing. Now, if you are violating laws and regulations and the ministry doesn't see that as a wrongdoing, the public has reason to be concerned. And if the minister doesn't see violations of public procurement laws that safeguard and protect our assets and funds as illegality, then we really have to have a serious conversation with who the minister reports to.
I'm bringing outdoors for you. I know you've expressed concern about some aspects of how the ministry has operated. What do you see in this report that stands out most for you?
This is not just about the company Market Me. We don't want to go on a witch hunt. What this is showing Jamaica is that the Ministry of Health has a systemic issue with procurement. We have highlighted it in the past, and we're seeing this again as further proof that there's a systemic challenge with the ministry, and Jeanette had pointed out before that rules were broken, rules were bent, and the idea that because no charges were recommended, this is not the Illegality Commission, it's the Integrity Commission. And the attempt by the minister to conflate the two, to say that if he was not referred for prosecution, it means he's exonerated, is entirely false and is misleading the nation. Ethical considerations, good governance principles were all tossed aside in this instance and in other instances that we have highlighted before. And I'm sure that if we look deep enough, during the COVID period, the direct contracting method was used quite a bit. And that was because they used it more as a response to the pandemic, the emergency. In this instance, there was no emergency, why you had 15 contracts being awarded under the direct contracting method. The Ministry of Health needs to be properly investigated. I don't buy this response that the minister is exonerated, yet he is going to accept that there were procedural challenges that they're going to fix. What he's in effect doing is to move himself out of the equation and cast the blame on the accounting officers. And I hope the civil servants at the Ministry of Health are understanding what is taking place, that he is casting the blame on them for the procedural and ethical challenges that allowed this integrity report to come out and say that they have a problem with the entire issue of the awarding of those contracts valued $78 million at the Ministry of Health.
Now, we should say to our viewers, we did invite the minister to appear. He declined and referred us to the statement he had sent out. And as you saw there, he said a few words to our colleague, Anthony Lugg, as well. So the question now, what should then happen now? As was mentioned, the Director of Investigation said there isn't evidence here to recommend for prosecution. He has referred the matter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I want to talk about that a little bit, as well as what else should happen. So let's take the break and we're back in a moment. We'll soon come.